Welcome. We have a great show for you today for your well being. This show is called Choose Greater Health. And our friend Paige Spears is the creator and your host for today's show. And she's excited about the guests that she has on today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kurt Ross from the World of Ability Podcast Network. And we are pleased, proud, and privileged to have this opportunity for you. Choose greater health. Come on in here, Paige. What do you have in line for us today? And tell us more about your show.
Thank you, Kurt. And we have Christine as our guest today. And Christine, you can start by sharing a little bit about what you do and your experience with brain injury and integrative wellness.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Paige, and I'm honored to be on your show. My journey has been quite interesting, and I got to discover the ill effects of stress on us and how it can make us so sick, and how the mind and our emotions play such a huge role in our well-being. And after crashing, well, I call it crashing because I was not really functional in 2017, and I kept getting all these diagnoses. They were just piling them up. And finally, I just kind of was like, I can't do anything. I can't like even prepare a meal in one block. I have to sit, put my feet up because they were swelling, sit down, and it just kept going and going. And the doctors were going to put me on sick leave for life. And I was like, I am not sick. I was so determined. I had this inner desire to heal. And that's how I started my journey and went from being an elementary school teacher for 30 years and shifting to being a stress management coach to support people, because no matter what diagnoses we get, there's so much stress, even just with the diagnoses itself, and then in the family, in your environment, your loved ones, because who wants to be sick? I don't know anybody who's called me up and said, "Hey, Christine, I'm so excited, I'm sick," right? Nobody does that. So it's a huge stress. It's a shock to our emotional system, to our mental system. And finding solutions became my journey to get out of where I was stuck so that I could be healthy, and actually healthier than I was before.
That sounds a lot like my situation that started when the anxiety kicked in. And even before that, when I was taking doxycycline for 4 or 5 years long term for acne, and a primary care provider prescribed that. And they didn't know much about the microbiome and the effects of all of that back in 1997. So that was a real learning curve for me. And I think that was what led to the anxiety. And that hit when I was in my second year of college. And so from there, I was also worried about my periods, which of course the hormones were affected by the anxiety. And then so I started combo hormonal birth control for that to regulate my periods. And then that combined with anti-anxiety medications, a lot of them being SSRIs and benzodiazepines, and long-term use for those contributed to the whole situation that happened. It'll be 10 years ago, this May 11th, when I was at work, thankfully with coworkers, and said I felt dizzy and lost consciousness. And they thankfully did CPR, called an ambulance, and I woke up in the hospital, and my whole life had changed, of course. And they only found out that it was blood clots when the preventative blood thinners that everyone automatically gets in the ER started to work. And they did the scans from there and confirmed it. So, yeah. And then I was in the meeting earlier today with Kurt and Patrice and others about is the special needs directory. And what we just heard before this meeting about how of the families of kids with special needs need to be connected with additional resources that maybe no one initially tells them about. And that's what I want to do for brain injury survivors. since my
Awesome.
path was, standard medicine uh, saved my life, and then the additional resources helps me thrive. And I want to share those extra resources with others who need them, like
Beautiful.
neurofeedback, therapeutic horseback riding, um, neural movement, functional neurology, chiropractic adjustments.
Osteopaths, acupuncturists are also really good.
Yeah. And there are also things that can happen that nobody, even the standard PTs, know quite enough about that. And that is spasticity that can happen after, in my case, oxygen deprivation brain injury. And that set in just after I got home from my 5 weeks total inpatient stay. And that was in my lower left leg. And that went on almost 24/7 for a good few months afterwards. And that also had an impact on my walking and I think contributed to hammer toes actually on both feet. So I've had a heck of a time really repatterning my walking from that.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know that I'm working with this beautiful 24-year-old right now, and I have permission. I won't say her name, but she is has permitted me to take a testimonial, just not ready yet. And so I know I can talk about it. And she was on medication for the stomach for ADHD, and she was taking all these medications. And what happens? Nobody was dealing with the core issue of her anxiety, of the trauma that she went through in her teens, well, in high school and afterwards, other situations. And sometimes it's situations with our loved ones that are very stressful because we think differently, we perceive life differently, and it's very stressful because everybody else in the family doesn't see things differently and doesn't perceive life the same way we do because of the journey we've been through. And it just creates so much internal stress. And I believe that people who are highly sensitive, um, okay, putting my hand up as well, we are affected even more. We didn't learn at a very young age how to regulate, self regulate ourselves. And if you don't know how to self regulate, you can get angry and you're carrying that anger. And highly sensitive children, adults also pick up the anger from their parents, from their siblings, from school. So they're carrying all this anger. And then we wonder why they have outbursts of anger. It's because they're like, when your pail of water is full, you add one more drop and you know, it
Yeah,
spills over. And and sometimes that drop, it is a tiny drop and it's nothing that we should get angry about, but we do. We just explode. And I remember exploding at the not very proud to say this, but I exploded at the well, post office because he wouldn't give me my parcel because I knew I wasn't going to be home when the mail lady went by. So I put my neighbor's address. Well, when you go to the post office, you show your driver's license to get your care package, and I couldn't get it. And of course, I couldn't have my neighbor come all the way to the other end of town for the package. Anyway, finally, I had a 2-year-old fit and I got my package. And then I had to go and learn how to self regulate, right? Because I did not want to be acting like that
yeah. Have you
in my
heard about
50s.
have you heard about the Reframing Anger Summit coming up on Event Raptor?
I have heard about it, but I've also developed some a technique. Actually, I got certified as an EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique Master Practitioner. And in this technique, what we do, it was created by Gary Craig in the 90s. And what you do is, as you're tapping on different meridian points that we have, like throughout our body, it kind of it calms that nervous system. It calms that part of the brain that is in survival mode, right? Because when we're triggered into anger, there's a part of our brain that believes that there's like a lion running after us. And that doesn't work out at all, right? There's no lions, there's no lion, but that fear, it just takes over. The anger, whether it's the overwhelm, the anger, the crying, the whatever negative emotion that you don't want to have. Or I've even done this with children who get super excited and they can't calm down because they finally got something they wanted and have wanted forever. And the child, a 9-year-old boy, was like, "Oh, wow, Christine, this really works." So what I did is I took EFT, I simplified it just so that it would be easier for kids, because EFT has a huge protocol and it takes a while to learn. But what I did is I created a technique that I called snap, tap, and zap to release it out. Would you like to try that with us? Would you like me to show the basics, or do you want people to just reach out if they want to learn the technique, Paige?
They can reach out if they want to learn, and you would be a really good speaker on that summit.
Thank you. So that I'll just say quickly. So the snap is to bring awareness for you to notice where you feel it in your body, and where's that tightness, where's the non-truth that's been activated. The tapping part is to calm your nervous system down, to reduce the charge that you were feeling, and to create a space between the trigger that happened and its meaning. And the zap is to rewire the brain so that you're kind of updating and telling, releasing, like letting it go, blowing it out, so that you feel safe again. And it's very powerful. And this client I was telling you about, that's 24, that's using it, she's now implementing it every day. Every time she has to talk to somebody that triggers her, she's going, "Okay, I got this," and she's doing it. And even her mom said, "Wow, it's really nice to see her doing that, because she's staying calm. She's not yelling at mom anymore." So there's a lot to be said about being able to self-regulate. And there are many, many different techniques to self-regulate.
Yeah, that's a good way to reset the automatic response.
Exactly. That's exactly what I help them do. Reset that automatic response. And what happens when you're tapping on meridian points, which is very interesting, is all of a sudden the brain, who was like, "Can't deal with this, can't deal with this," just goes, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm just, now I know my solution." Because when the amygdala, the survival part of the brain, just kind of um, becomes quiet, right? Or feels safe again, then you can use your prefrontal cortex, which is your logical way of thinking. And then you can do it with logic instead of with fear that's, comes from your brain.
Yeah. And nutrition first psychiatry is what I would like to see more of in clinical practice, and what could have helped me. Although I've had the benefit of, I had 8 months of twice weekly neurofeedback sessions in my first year post injury, and that gave things a good foundation, and then nutrition could pick up from there. And I've been seeing an integrative medicine provider, and recently, in about the last year and a half, a holistic medicine provider, a naturopath, and I've gotten my custom nutrition and supplements dialed in to give my brain and body the right nutrient balance needed.
Yes. Yes, I went through the nutrition as well. I was a very one of my friends said, "I don't get it why you're sick. You eat 10 times better than we do. So why are you sick, Christine?" And when I crashed, as I say it, I went to see a naturopath, and she fixed my diet and I did really well, but I kept falling backwards. Like, why did I keep, I'd be going, "Oh, the things are going great." And then all of a sudden, there was a big drop again. And I was like, oh, but I've eaten everything. I was allowed like 3 fruits only. I had half a grapefruit, half a cup of blueberries, or an apple per day. That was my sugar. That was it. No sugar. She had taken rice out. She had taken corn because it was too sweet. She had taken so much stuff out of my diet. It was quite interesting and it worked. But then I'd get better and I'd crash again. So that's where the journey, where the EFT, the emotional freedom techniques, came in, because if you're not dealing with the thoughts that you have, with the feelings that you have that are that bring you down, empty your energy out. Somebody can come in and you've worked hard and you accomplish something and they don't know your journey from before, and all of a sudden they say, that's all you can do. Like, that'll really drain your whole energy out. How do you deal with people who have things to say to you that don't support you, you know?
Yeah, and the source of the stress can be different for everyone.
Exactly. And it's very different for everyone because our brains are unique, right? And it's, I believe, like I'm saying this in quotation marks, that we are our best doctors, in the sense that we need to be listening to our bodies.
And be our best advocates.
Yes. 100% Paige. And I believe it's the people who become their own advocates and really like try and pay attention to what their body is saying and doing, so that you can say, wait a minute, this isn't working because this is working because, and then you can track your success.
Yeah, and I've missed dance, although I'm happy to have been able to go back to horseback riding. I did dance classes a lot growing up, mostly ballet, and 1 year of jazz, and I enjoyed that. And then I started horseback riding lessons, and I did that from about the time I was the summer I was 13 up through college, and I started college as an equestrian major. And then doing all of that, and the thought of all of that got to be a little too stressful and overwhelming for me at that point. So I transferred schools and went closer to home and got my BA in dance. And I did ballet, modern, and jazz there. Although
Wow.
I still prefer ballet and jazz to modern. Modern, at least at the time, seemed to me to involve too much floor time.
Okay, yeah. I am not I can't, I love music. I love the dances, but I can't hear the rhythm of the music, and I'm supposed to be dancing on the rhythm and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, my brain and body coordination now is not the same, although I vaguely remember of it when it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though the horseback riding is really fun, and I've gotten to canter on the mare I ride now, Lady, and I've also got ridden a Percheron Haflinger mix and got him to canter, and the Appaloosa Arabian mix jumped over a low pole we had set up.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I won Rider of the Year in 2021 at my therapy barn.
Wow. You're doing great.
Yeah, I also rode in the veterans group one spring session, and there was a reporter from the local paper there. So there was a front page photo of me on my therapy horse buddy.
Cool. That's very cool. Yeah, it's nice. When I was a teenager, I had a horse, and we lived on a dairy farm, and I was the one that was to take care of Jack. Her name was Jackie. And any minute I could have that was free, I would be riding Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank goodness like animals really help us self-regulate as well.
yeah.
It's very soothing. We can feel the warmth of the animal, and we like a cat purrs, or and even the breath of a horse, hugging a horse feels really
Yeah.
good. So those are really excellent ways to self-regulate as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's better now that I just get to ride.
Yes, of course.
And rode in the ride-a-thon last year where we raised money for the barn and got to ride in other parts of the trails and out in the fields where we don't usually go during class.
Excellent. That's really cool. Yeah. So from everything you've been through, Paige, like I'm kind of curious, like what's the most important lesson that you found, that you think people would love to hear?
To be your own advocate and stay curious about additional options. And with my business, Choose Greater Health, I've wanted to do something similar to Helpopedia, maybe even partner with them on a directory of additional integrative and holistic resources for brain injury recovery.
That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. And I agree with you. Learning to become our own advocate. And for me, it's really about listening to my body is the best way that I can advocate for myself. And because different body parts I have discovered have different meanings. And when a client tells me, oh, my right shoulder, like something's wrong with my right shoulder, I have this pain, never had it. And I have the ability, let me see, how can I explain this? So, you know how some people, very few people anyway, can look at a piece of wood, like a log or a tree trunk or a big branch, and look at it and carve out a most beautiful animal, right? Have you seen or heard of that
Yeah.
before?
Yeah, what I've heard about sculptors, they see the sculpture in the block of marble and carve out everything that isn't it.
Exactly. So I have the ability to, when I'm given permission, obviously, to see where the origin of the issue started. Why is there that pain in that shoulder? And I can see, like, it was at such an age or something was happening. And through questioning with the client, we can quickly figure that out and release it so that you feel much better.
The two things that have come up for me in the last year and a half are sciatica that kind of comes and goes, although maybe it's better with the bioidentical progesterone that I've been taking consistently since December. And then there's my left elbow that's been acting up, and that was the one that I dislocated after falling off a horse my senior year of high school some 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So the left elbow, if do you want me to go ahead and just name something with that?
Sure.
So the left elbow often has, and we have to go back like 20 years, but has to do with a relationship with mom. And the elbow is a body part that is flexible. So I would say that there was some inflexibility happening with what you wanted and what your mom wanted at that point in time in your life. Does that sound true?
Possibly some.
Yeah. And sometimes that stays kind of stuck in there. The Our feelings and our emotions kind of stay stuck. And yes, you did fall. And yes, there can still be the emotional charge stuck in the elbow. And that's why it keeps hurting. So if you want me to release that energetically, I can do that for you right now if you'd like.
Yes.
Okay. So just take a nice deep breath in and relax your shoulders and exhale out. What was happening before you had that accident?
Right before it, I asked the horse to canter and he crow hopped.
Oh, so were you not feeling heard at that point in time in your life? Not just by the horse, but by other people in your life?
Possibly.
Possibly. And your best guess, who would be that person?
I want to say myself.
Yourself. You weren't listening to yourself. Hmm. Beautiful awareness, Paige. And how does your left elbow feel right now? Better, worse, the same?
Different. A little bit tingly.
Oh, excellent. That's because the energy in it is the cells are like moving around. So just allow that and allow it to continue to rest it today. And if there's still something left with it, let me know.
Okay.
Cool. So that's what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting perspective, right? Is very different from what we're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also a little bit of how you work with other people dealing with health things themselves.
Yes. And I do it for myself first because I've had some health issues and that's how I learned all the techniques that I need and discovered that I had these natural abilities that I was born with and never realized I had these natural abilities. So kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where can people find you and connect with you if they'd like to learn more or work with you?
Um, Christine, and my name is written here on this on the screen. So Christine, Christine, Bernat, BERNAT.com, all in one word. ChristineBernat.com is my website. And from there you can connect with me, or Christine at ChristineBernat.com is my email. So they can email me as well.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Christine.
Thank you, Paige. It was nice to have a chat with you. And I hope
Yeah.
this helps some of your listeners.
Yeah.